Here we go. Hi, and welcome to a new episode and a new year of Newsmakers TV. I'm Jerry Roberts. It is Friday, January 5th, 2024, which means it is only 60 days, just 2 months until the March 5th election. And this year, Newsmakers once again is teaming up with my colleague, Josh Molina, founder and host of the Santa Barbara Talks podcast, to cover critical local races on the March ballot. And I'm very pleased to begin that coverage by welcoming to the program today Roy Lee, Carpinteria City Council member and local businessman. Mr. Lee is on the ballot challenging incumbent Dos Williams for the 1st District seat on the Board of Supervisors, which covers Carpinteria, Montecito, and most of the city of Santa Barbara. Mr. Lee, Roy, thanks, welcome. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Thank you, Jerry, and thank you to Josh for having me here today. And thank you to all your viewers and listeners for tuning in and being here with us. So, yeah, you said it. I'm running for 1st District Supervisor.
All right.
Against Dos
Tell
Williams.
us, Roy, and for those who may not be familiar with your background, tell us a little bit about your bio and who you are, what you do, if you would.
Yeah, a quick background. I've been a local resident for over 35 years. I own and operated Uncle Chen's restaurant, which has been in operations since 1991 with my family. I'm a 2-term Carpinteria City Council member. I'm a father. I'm a husband. I'm a son. I'm just an advocate for our community.
Okay, very good. Josh?
So, Roy Lee, it's a pleasure to meet you. I think I've covered you talking at Carpinteria Council meetings before, but we haven't met one-on-one. So it's a pleasure to have this opportunity to talk to you. I wanted to ask you about the incumbent. So in politics, when you're taking on an incumbent, it's always difficult. Incumbent has name recognition.
Yep.
In this case, the incumbent's been in office for 20 years and has been on a ballot, right, every 2 years or every 4 years consistently. Can you make a case? Like, what is your case against Dos Williams? Why should people say it's over for him and they should elect you for 1st District Supervisor?
Well, Dos is one of those worst kind of career politicians, ones that beholds by special interests, such as the cannabis industry, which recently gave him $5,000 last week as contributions, and to out-of-town developers. He constantly does not represent the community. Recently, if you've seen what happened in Montecito with the breed nuts, he did not listen to the community and went against the wishes. At the very least, he should have brought that conversation before the Board of Supervisors, and yet he decided not to. In Carpinteria, we have interactions with Dos, and 99% of the time it has been negative. He constantly puts us down, talk negatively of our community, and yet he lives in Carpinteria. For me, it's time for a change. Enough politics. I'm here to get things done. A lot has to be fixed, starting with the marijuana, starting with the housing that he wants to do. He wants to put in overdevelopment housing in the 1st District and throughout the county. My goal as a supervisor is about preservation of our open space, our agriculture, our character, and stop us from overdevelopment. Now, I'm not saying I'm not against housing or anything, but we want housing that reflects the needs and the wants of our community. Affordable housing that our teachers, our first responders, and our local business workers are able to afford. I'm here to represent you.
Let me follow up on the incumbent question, and your answer was clear and direct. And Jerry and I always appreciate elected officials who can just answer the question. So that's great. So much about serving is different than about campaigning. And
Yep.
I think everyone would agree that the incumbent is a really good campaigner, really good at raising money, and really good at first impressions. So I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about your interactions with the incumbent in the context of how he presents himself in public, versus what he does behind the scenes and how that affects constituents.
Yeah, and with my interactions with us, he has always been professional, smiling, agreeing with everything you do. But when it comes to action time, he's a two-face. He does the opposite of what he promises, constantly over and over. If you look at what happened with the city of Santa Barbara, at La Cumbre Plaza, to the Santa Barbara City Council, he promised to work with them, but yet he blocked a grant and let this huge development happen at the Sears building. Here in Carpinteria, he promised to work with us with development, specifically at the Red Tail Hawk project, but yet he did the opposite. He basically kicked us out of the room, out of the conversation, and decided to build high density right outside our neighborhood that nobody wanted.
Okay. All right. And we should mention for our viewers, we of course have invited Supervisor Williams to come on and talk about the campaign as well. And hopefully we'll be speaking to him within the next couple of weeks. Roy, let me just flip the question a little bit. So how would you be different? You know, I got a rooting interest in this one, I have to disclose. I'm also a resident of the first district, so I'll be voting. How would things be different? What would you do differently? And if you could, you know, kind of sum it up, what your message would be in just a few words.
I will bring exactly what I have brought to the from this Carpinteria City Council. I'll be dedicated, dependable, and honest. My goal is about preservation, making sure that our quality of life stays the same, if not better, and that I represent you, the community, and not special interest groups.
Okay. And what areas or what specific issues would you like to really focus on that you think aren't being addressed properly right now?
Specifically, it'll be about streamlining the permitting process for homeowners and businesses. I would like to create an economic development department within the county and also create a county app, as we did here in Carpinteria. I would like to make it easier for homeowners and businesses to operate business, and that's something that's lacking here in the county level.
Okay. Josh, you got more on housing?
Yeah, let me just go back to you started to talk about housing, and we know that we're at this really important pivotal time when it comes to a housing crisis. We know that there aren't enough affordable places for people to live, for people who work in Santa Barbara, Carpinteria, throughout the South Coast, and we have lots of commuters and we have lots of state pressures. You're running against Doss, who fashions himself as a housing advocate. And there are a lot of people who hear that soundbite and be like, wow, that's great. You know, we want more housing too. What's left out of that conversation is most of the housing that's being built is market rate. It's super expensive. And I think elected officials like Doss Williams count on people not drilling down below the surface to actually understand what the housing project entails. So my question for you is, you know, you've talked about housing and growth in a manageable way. Where do you stand on the need to build more housing? Because I know a lot of voters will hear you say you don't want more housing in Carpinteria and say, he's not my candidate. The other one is for housing, and I want more housing, and they're going to be a single vote issue and not want to understand the nuance. So can you explain your position on housing? Are you against housing in Carpinteria? What is your position?
I'm not against housing. I am for sensible, smart housing plans. It is important that we work with our other councils, the county officials, housing authority, ARB planning commissions to come up with a reasonable, smart plan to go forward. The housing that Doss is proposing is 80% market and 20% affordable. Now, market rate homes here in Carpinteria go for $4,000 to $5,000 a month. Affordable means $3,000 to $4,000 a month. It's not very affordable for any teachers to be able to move in. What I would like to do is work with our local businesses, such as Portcore, LinkedIn, to come up with a plan to infill or to rezone for mixed-use housing on those properties, because they are vacant and they are available for us to explore other options instead of just rezoning agriculture, such as what DAS has planned. Agriculture is very important, not just to Carpinteria Valley, but throughout Santa Barbara County. So I am for housing, but it has to be the housing that we need, that our kids are able to afford, and future generations of Santa Barbara's can be here and live here and raise their families.
Can I follow up? Let me just double back to your bio real quick, and then we'll, Jerry, you jump in. But what was your upbringing? Were you a renter? Did your parents own homes? Can you talk about your upbringing? Because a lot of people will make the contest be about personalities and what their experience was. Can you talk about how you were raised and what those conditions were like, and how that might help you understand these issues?
I do. Going back, my family came from Taiwan, 1986. We had very little money and we worked hard to achieve what we have. We were most in part homeowners, which is difficult because as homeowners, there's a lot of bills, a lot of rent, and yet there was a point in our lives where we were renters. I do understand both sides of the coin. Currently, I'm a homeowner here in Carpinteria, and I would love to give other homeowners opportunity to have access to streamline the accessory dwelling units, ADUs, because it's something that our community has advocated for. So, for example, in Carpinteria, we streamlined the process for 2 models where you, as a homeowner, could come in and we have pre-approved plans saving yourself over $50,000 in fees. Therefore, within 2 weeks, you're able to start building your ADU. So as a homeowner, I understand the challenges of what we're facing. At the same time, we do not want more traffic, more density, more cars in our neighborhoods, because then we just become something that we're not. We're becoming LA. So I believe Das is doing just that. He's trying to LA us into more traffic, more density, more concrete everywhere.
Okay. All right. Let me go back to the cannabis issue, Roy, which you mentioned a couple times, and of course, Carpinteria has been ground zero for the kind of countywide fight over this issue. And there's a lot of different perspectives on it. There's the avocado, growers who maybe had problems with it. There's the people who have concerns with smell, but yet there's also people who work in the industry, who work at the greenhouses. And then of course there's the schools. Can you break it down a little bit for us? Excuse me. Just as where do you come at the cannabis question? Should it not have been legalized in the first place? Should the county have been more restrictive in it? Just kind of talk a little bit about the specifics of it and what your perspective is on it, please.
The whole cannabis industry, how it came about, is just a mess. That's what happens when you give keys to somebody who doesn't know how to drive, and thus not having the basic business experience to do just that created this mess that we are here today. The smell and the taxations are the top priorities that I would address as a supervisor. Every day I have people coming into my business complaining and telling me how the smell affects their health and their lives in a negative aspect. And enough is enough. We have to put in those carbon filters. It's a simple, effective way to eliminate majority of the smell. Now, for your viewers who do not understand what carbon scrubbers are, they're air filters that go into the greenhouses, and they absorb up to 98% of the smell that emits from these plants.
Inside.
Is it easy? Correct. Inside the greenhouses. It's an easy fix. It's effective. Other counties who grow cannabis does it. They put it in the policies, but yet after all this time, DASA has yet to support such technologies. And the taxation. Santa Barbara County is one of the biggest growers of cannabis in the state, if not the country. But yet, the revenue taxation from that to the county is only, I can estimate, $5 to $6 million. Northern California communities have less acreage, and yet they're getting $50 to $60 million in tax revenue. Something's off about that, and we need to revisit and start this conversation again. And what most important that I felt was not spoken about was community input about from the community to whether we want cannabis in our community or not. And going back to where it's grown, it's across the street from high school. It's across the street from the Carpinteria High School and next to homes. I'm a firm believer of I never do something to you that I'll never do to myself. So us has really dropped the ball on there. And I spoke to kids and teachers from the Carpinteria High School, and they're negatively impacted by what's happening surrounding them.
Yeah. And just specifically on the carbon scrubbers, as I understand the ordinance, and I may be misquoting, but it's supposed to be the most advanced technology or the best single fix or something like that, although it doesn't specify carbon scrubbers. But am I correct in hearing you say that you would push on the Board of Supervisors to require carbon scrubbers in every operation?
We did. Recently, our city of Carpinteria sent a letter to the Board of Supervisors requesting that they change the language to specifically say carbon scrubbers instead of best use technology.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that.
Hey, Roy, let me follow up on that. Just one last thing. I know I'll say honestly, 90% of the time I drive through Carp or I'm in Carp, I can smell cannabis, right? And it's frustrating because when you talk to Supervisor Williams, he'll say, I don't smell it. Where's the smell, Josh? Okay. I smell it all the time, right? Do you smell it? Is it like a fantasy in some people's heads, or is it there?
It's there. I smell it all the time. I smell it through Carpinteria. I smell it through when I drive on Foothill. The smell is made a joke of our community. When people come up here, they put us down because they think that we're a joke of the county that just let this industry run wild without the right policies to put in. So it's not the city of Carpinteria's fault. It's Josh Williams and whatever he did, he dropped the ball and he won't fix it. I don't understand why, but he's not listening to the community, and it's frustrating.
Okay.
I want to follow up, or not follow, but kind of change the topic a little bit and ask you about an issue that has occurred over the last couple of years in Montecito related to this clash between recreation and being near an urban area, specifically the Hot Springs Trail. So I have reported on the fact that the county would like to create more parking spaces out there. And there are homeowners who are upset about this because they feel as though that's going to impact the neighborhood, the community, and they live on that edge there between Hot Springs and a city and an urban environment. There's been litigation over this. Homeowners have planted things and put things on the public right of way. The county tries to take them away, but then there's an argument of, well, you need to do an EIR and we need to sort of figure out how we're going to have this comprehensive plan. But basically, during COVID, the Hot Springs Trail exploded during popularity because people were looking for ways to get outside, and there was a viral TikTok video. This is a real issue for Montecito residents. And how do you maintain what Montecito is when you have a whole lot of people, locals, and people from out of the area, Europe, everywhere, wanting to go bask in those hot springs? Where do you stand on that whole parking issue? And should we create more parking? Are the homeowners out of line with wanting to keep things sort of calm just for the locals?
I have met with homeowners up on East Mountain Drive, and it's clear to me, I stand with the homeowners. That road is too small to put in up to 72, 74 parking areas. Imagine there's a fire emergency and you have all these cars, and how can a fire truck save people's lives while the road is crowded? And what if a fire comes through? Who knows what else, natural disasters? The safety and the well-being of the community always comes first. And I do not support the county being so harsh towards the neighborhood. They have to remember that they work for them and not the homeowners do not work for the county. So I stand with the homeowners. I do not support additional parking. I believe there's a compromise and that there is space for parking for visitors to be and walk over. Though it may not be in the front of the trail, it would be somewhere reasonable for both sides to come to a compromise and make everybody happy.
You know, Doss Williams in my stories that I've reported has put the blame on the homeowners and said, why should this trail be just for them, right? Like locals want to come, we need more parking. And they sort of say, he said, they put obstructions in the public right away. What other context would we allow that to happen? Can you talk a little bit about that? I mean, in the homeowners that you've talked to, are they saying this is our trail and we only want to keep it for ourselves, or what are their concerns when it comes to the fact that they have planted stuffs in the public right away?
So I'm talking to the homeowners. They call Das a liar, and I do not agree with Das's assessment of such. What I do hear from the homeowners is that there are visitors going up there and starting fires. Now imagine a high wind event coming up and a red flag warning, and the fire happens up there. That is what I'm concerned about. We have to make sure that the homeowners in their neighborhood and our community is safe first, and we do not cater to outside visitors who just come here to jump in a hot spring and start fires. Their safety is the top priority that I'll be focusing on. And as supervisor, I will hold forums with the homeowners and the county to make sure that we are all represented well and listened to.
All right, let me ask you about another pretty local issue that affects a lot of people. Obviously, we're coming up on the anniversary of the debris flow, the deadly debris flow, and right after that, as you know, Roy, a group of concerned citizens in Montecito got together and did research and raised a bunch of money to put some debris ring nets in some of the creeks up above the in the Montecito Hills. And of course, their 5 years ran out. There was a push to try to have the county pick up some of the cost of maintaining those. And the county Public Works Department said they couldn't afford to do it. And the ring nets were taken out. And the county's position has been, well, we've got these bigger debris basins, we've got a whole flood control plan going on. I know I got an email from Das's supervisor office yesterday talking about how he was an advocate for flood control. Where do you come down in this whole ring net thing? Did the county handle this properly or not, or what should have been done?
They did not handle it well. They made a huge mistake of not supporting the ring nets. Those nets belong up in those creeks in Montecito and not in a warehouse in a different state. At the very least, DAS should have brought this before the Board of Supervisors for discussion and possible action. If DAS and the Public Works Flood Control has a plan, show it. I haven't seen anything yet. All they do is talk. In 2 years' time, they might present something, but right now, what's important is to keep the community safe, because this winter and next winter, we're expected to have record rain and possibly debris flow. So it is imperative and the priority, for me as a supervisor to make sure that Montecito is safe, because I will never forget what happened on January 9th. It is devastated the community and as a county as a whole. So we have to do everything we can to make sure that we keep our community safe.
So what would you have done differently faced with the circumstances that were there, that, the folks who had paid to put the ring nets in, were saying we can't afford to, maintain these, forever, and we want some help from the county. How would you have handled that differently? It's sort of as a case study, if you will.
I would have started earlier. I would have worked with the community and just work with the county to find the money, to find the budget, whether, to take it out of my salary as a supervisor. That's what's important. My goal is to keep the community safe. And at the very least, just extend the permits, give us more time to come up with a plan, but to totally disregard it and not support it, that he is gambling with people's lives. It's not right. That's not leadership that we need. We need someone who's responsible, accountable, because at the end of the day, he's putting people's lives at risk. And you cannot do that as an elected official.
All right, Roy, we just have a couple minutes left, and I want to ask you some purely politics questions, if I could. It's often said that there's three elements to any political campaign. There's message, there's money, and there's organization. And I think you've certainly articulated your views in terms of a message, and I think that's come through loud and clear. I think Josh would probably agree with me about that. But as Josh pointed out earlier, Das has a well-earned reputation as a campaigner, and so both in terms of the money and in terms of the organization, he pretty much controls the local Democratic Party, the two top operatives are on the public payroll in his office, working for it. How are you going to compete against that? What is your what's your prognosis in terms of how the campaign's going to go? I think, as we were talking before you came on, a lot of people haven't really tuned in to what's going on yet. How do you see that playing out over the next 2 months?
For me, it's a grassroots approach, knocking on doors, doing the old-fashioned way, putting ads in the newspaper, just walking around, talking to people. That will be my strategy. Getting people who are fed up with his politics. As someone, for me, being elected official is doing your civic duty. It is never a career. Making sure my community is well and safe that's my reward. And that's what the message I'll bring. I want to preserve what we have all fought so hard for. We live in a special, amazing place. We get to the beach on one side and the mountain on the other, and our weather is amazing. And I want to preserve what we have, make sure that we don't become like LA. As I said before, that is so important. And anybody that lives here understands that, how important that is.
All right. Josh, you got anything else?
No, I'm good. Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity.
Well, Roy, let me just give you the opportunity here. Is there anything we haven't asked about or anything we did ask about that you'd like to just emphasize here before we close?
Yeah, I just want to say anybody that would like to reach out to me, please go to my campaign website, FOR supervisors.com, or my personal email, royleecarpinteria@gmail.com. I'm always available, I'm dependable, and I'll be honest. And anytime you want to see me in person, please come by Uncle Chen restaurant. This is where I spend most of the time working, serving the community awesome Chinese food. So I look forward to anybody that would like to come and meet me, and I thank you for the opportunity.
All right. Roy Lee, thank you very much. Candidate for 1st District Supervisor, Carpinteria City Council person. Roy, thanks so much for taking the time to be with us this morning, and good luck in your campaign.
Thank you. Thank you, Jerry, and thank you, Josh.
Thank you.